What's up, folks? I'm Chris, your MLB writer here at OccupyFantasy.com, here with a look at the 10-game main slates on Monday, June 13th in MLB DFS on FanDuel, DraftKings, and Yahoo. As always, going to walk through the Occupy model here for a few minutes and hopefully leave you in a better place when you get ready to attack the slate this evening. Tonight, we think Nola is the top pitcher to deploy in DFS contests. That's why we have him up here on the screen. See that in recent games, he's actually pitched extremely well, putting up over 30 fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 outings. Obviously, that's very strong. And in our model, which is the first place we like to start, looking at starting pitchers, Nola is number 1 today with a 16.0 OF index. Now, that's above the 15.0 threshold we like for a good play, slightly below the 17.0 threshold we like for a great play. But it's all relative, and today, Nola, minus 143 moneyline favorite, slight movement in his favor. One of the highest strikeout projections on this slate, 1.21, is sometimes, very frequently, the highest that we see on a slate. Today it's third. And Nola with reasonable batted ball exit velocity against, one cause for concern, batted ball distance, a little on the high side. But we like Nola tonight against the Miami Marlins. Something to keep an eye on there is we do like a couple of Marlins hitters. Really, it's just Jazz Chisholm is the number 1 hitter in the model. So there's a little bit of a conflict there. Just don't play those 2 guys in the same lineup tonight in DFS. Sandy Alcantra on the other side of this matchup has probably been one of the most consistent pitchers in Major League Baseball all season long. He's got a 15.3 OF index, coming in as a slight underdog to Nola. I feel like this is just a tight projection by odds makers just because this is a really strong pitching matchup on both sides tonight. Alcantra 1.01 strikeout per inning pitch projection and much better StatCast data recently than Nola. So Alcantra could actually be an interesting play instead of Nola, although there's really no reason to not play these 2 guys in the same lineup. That would certainly be okay as well this evening. Now, a little lower on the strikeout side of things, Alek Manoah with the Blue Jays, just projected for 0.86 strikeouts per inning pitch tonight. Really strong StatCast numbers. He's got a strong matchup against the last place Baltimore Orioles in the American League East. He's the biggest favorite on the slate, minus 315 on the money line right now. Manoah averages over a strikeout per inning over the last year's worth of his outings, since June 2021. So certainly some room for him to outperform this projection here as well, especially considering that Baltimore strikes out above average over the last 30 days of play. So I actually think that might be a little light for Manoah this evening. Below these 3 guys, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Yu Darvish against the Cubs is in a good spot, minus 129 moneyline favorite. The Cubs are hitting slightly better than average in terms of fantasy point production and striking out slightly below average. And Darvish's strikeout stuff has been a little lacking of late. We see this projection of just 0.78, but the StatCast data fairly reasonable. Lance Lynn with the White Sox, and I'll go to Ronny Garcia here with the Tigers. These 2 guys, we expect this game to get rained out tonight, so you can probably ignore them entirely. Christian Javier with the Astros is probably a high-risk DraftKings or Yahoo secondary starting pitcher play. Wouldn't consider him on FanDuel because I don't think he's out. His typical outing length may not be long enough to get a win or a quality start, and you need that on FanDuel. But I like his strikeout upside, highest projected strikeouts potential on this slate. Now, with stacks, we like to target the weakest starting pitchers in our model. That's something we typically do night in and night out. Tonight, by OF Index, we think that's Chris Archer with the Minnesota Twins, which would make the Mariners an interesting option. Taylor Hearn with the Texas Rangers would make the Astros an option. Mitch Keller with the Pittsburgh Pirates would make the St. Louis Cardinals an option. Kyle Bradish with the Baltimore Orioles would make the Toronto Blue Jays an option. Now, is there anything else on the resume of these 4 guys that may push us towards targeting them? Kyle Bradish is allowing the second hardest batted ball exit velocity out of any starting pitcher on this slate in the last 2 weeks of play. And it's actually probably going to be the hardest because the pitcher that has the worst overall resume is Ronny Garcia for the Tigers. But we expect that game to get rained out, so we're going to have to X him off of our list here as soon as that news comes in, most likely. Bradish would make the Blue Jays a really interesting stack tonight. I suspect the Blue Jays will be fairly popular at a reasonable high implied team total, and everybody knows about Bradish at this point. Mike Minor with the Cincinnati Reds is also making his third start of the season, and this batted ball distance is atrocious. It's the worst on the slate for a starting pitcher, so that would make Arizona, if you can stomach playing Arizona for the 14th time in a row using the Occupy model, Arizona may be an interesting play against Mike Minor of the Reds tonight. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we should look at the top stacks in our model to see if there's any degree of consensus with these pitchers here at the bottom. Now, there's one name here, Zach Thompson, the St. Louis Cardinals. He's actually making his first career start tonight, and our model wants us to target him. We have the Pittsburgh Pirates ranked number 1 by OF Index, number 3 by weighted on base average, number 5 by projected isolated slugging. These are all really strong projections. They have just the 15th highest implied team total out of 20 teams on this slate. So I would not go into this slate considering the Pittsburgh Pirates as like this world beater stack that we need to get into a bunch of our lineups. In fact, we used our lineup builder at Occupy Fantasy and it agreed with that reading. A 46 overall stack ranking, not typically super high for our model. We like to see 50 plus, sometimes 60 plus for our top stacks. So big picture macro level, our model is actually telling us today that all of these teams are somewhat relatively even. I would only consider the Pirates in the largest field tournaments this evening, given the overall context there of our model and how to attack different sized contests and slates. Zach Thompson, the starter there, actually does have a lot of strikeout upside, and so therefore the Pirates get shut down very easily. Now, the Houston Astros have a much more consistent ranking. They're in the top 3 across all 4 categories. The Atlanta Braves, high implied team total. Even the St. Louis Cardinals, who are just 5th by OF Index, might be my favorite play on this slate. Reasonably high weighted on base average, high implied team total in betting markets, and a strong projected isolated slugging for the St. Louis Cardinals tonight. Our model, trying to build some MME lineups on DraftKings tonight, leaving it wide open, actually loves the Cardinals. Loves using them the most as a primary stack. The Cardinals and the Braves, in fact, were the 2 that I got the most of on an initial run today for tonight's slate. So I think that's where I'm going to personally try to go. Going over to our hitter model, mentioned already that Jazz Chisholm is the number 1 hitter in the model facing Aaron Nola. The rest of the Marlins rank fairly low. You see, we have a pretty uneven distribution of where we think the points will come from tonight. Chisholm, Soler, Aguilar, Sanchez would probably be the only ones worth consider. Well, Garcia as well. We like anything over a 4. So the 1 through 5 hitters against Nola may have the best chance of success, but we're going to stay with the pitcher side there. So that's why I'm skipping over the Marlins, even though they are ranked decently high by OF Index and projected isolated slugging. They have the 3rd worst weighted on base average and the 2nd worst implied team total on this slate. So that means they're like super high risk and not something that I'm willing to stomach here personally. Let's look at the St. Louis Cardinals against Pittsburgh's, I believe, Mitch Keller is the starter tonight. Nolan Gorman, we got a very consistent ranking. We have, I'll call it 7 hitters, really 8 hitters that are on the threshold of 4 or higher for an OF index that are playable. Yadier Molina, I guess if you need him, I think I would cross him off, but that means he'll hit a couple home runs tonight. We have some really good recent Statcast performance from these Cardinals hitters. Nolan Gorman with the 3rd furthest batted ball distance out of all Major League players in the last couple of weeks. Number 1 here, second base play. We like that because it's hard to fill those middle infield positions. You can get to Nolan Arenado. You can put Tommy Edman at the shortstop position to fill the other middle infield position. A couple of cheap outfield plays. I think the Cardinals are going to end up being really strong here as a result this evening in their matchup with Mitch Keller. I think this is where I'm going to go tonight personally in my stuff. At least early on, this is how I'm reading it. So I'm going to build a Cardinals lineup. I've already got 5 of my favorite Cardinal hitters plugged in. I've got my favorite starting pitcher, Aaron Nola, plugged in. I got 44.25 per player remaining here on DraftKings. And we could get number 2, Sandy Alcantara, have 2,500 per player remaining. I think the safer move here, maybe the biggest favorite on the slate, Alek Manoah, 26.33 per player remaining. Certainly some room to finish off the rest of this lineup with that much salary left. Over on FanDuel, Nola, 4 high upside St. Louis Cardinals hitters, 28.75 per player remaining. I think that's enough to get something done tonight. It'll be interesting to see how our final rankings shake out. There's a lot of moving parts on this slate. Keep an eye out for the daily plug on OccupyFantasy.com. That'll be updated by about 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have our final rankings for top pitchers, top hitters, top stacks, so you won't want to miss that. If you want to talk about MLB DFS up until then, you can consider joining our Discord. There's a link to do so below the description of every video we post on this channel. We'd love to see you in there. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk to you tomorrow for more MLB DFS.